The Shadow Frontier. Chapter 1: The Fall of Night. The desert night outside Groom Lake was silent, a silence so vast it swallowed every whisper of wind. Miles of sand stretched beneath the stars, broken only by fences, cameras, and the shadow of America's most secret base. To most of the world it was a rumor. To the few who served here, it was hell with a barcode. Captain Jason Hale stood on the observation deck of Site 7, his boots planted firm, his gaze locked on the radar screens glowing before him. He was a soldier cut from iron, broad-shouldered, scarred from years in Afghanistan and Syria, but now his wars had shifted into shadows the public would never see. Something was coming. The blips on the radar weren't Russian, not Chinese. They moved too fast, too erratic, accelerating in bursts that shattered every law of physics Jason had ever been taught. "Jesus Christ," muttered Sergeant Diaz beside him, voice tight. "That's not a drone. Not ours, not theirs." Jason's jaw clenched. Alert command. Full scramble. Within seconds, the base erupted with sirens. Hangars split open, F-35s roaring to life, spotlights cutting across the desert. Soldiers poured out like ants, rifles in hand, their movements drilled and perfect. But Jason knew drills meant nothing tonight. He had seen combat. This was not combat. The sky tore open. A streak of fire burned across the heavens, so bright the desert glowed like noon. The object screamed overhead, faster than sound, faster than thought, and then, impact. The earth convulsed. Sand and stone ripped skyward, a shockwave flattening fences and toppling towers. Jason hit the deck as glass shattered around him. Heat washed over his skin like a furnace. Then came the silence. The heavy, waiting silence of a world holding its breath. Jason rose to his feet, coughing dust. Beyond the fences, a crater blazed with molten light. At its core lay something alive. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't debris. It was a structure, black and silver, smooth as bone, humming with a pulse that sank into the marrow. Diaz whispered, "That's alien." Jason didn't answer. His rifle was already in his hands. The structure stirred. Light rippled across its surface, symbols crawling like veins of fire. Then a seam split open, spilling white brilliance into the night. Figures emerged. Tall, armored, their skin sheened with metallic scales, their eyes burning like twin suns. They moved with precision, each step sending vibrations through the sand. Not invaders rushing into battle, but executioners walking to the gallows. "Open fire," Jason roared. Gunfire ripped the night apart. Dozens of soldiers unleashed hell, tracers cutting through the dark, rockets streaking into the crater. Explosions thundered, fire swallowing the figures whole. For a moment, it seemed enough. For a moment, men believed. And then the fire parted. The aliens stood untouched. One raised its hand. Energy erupted, a shockwave flattening men and machines alike. Tanks crumpled like toys. Helicopters dropped from the air like stones. Jason was hurled back, his body smashing against concrete, his ears ringing with screams. He staggered to his knees, blood in his mouth, vision blurred. Around him the base burned. America's proudest secrets turned to ash. The alien leader stepped forward, its voice not spoken but thundered inside their minds. "This world belongs to the war. You are already too late." Jason locked eyes with it, rage burning hotter than fear. He knew in that moment, the war wasn't coming. It was here, and he would not bow. Chapter 2: Fire in the Desert. The flames of Site 7 painted the desert in shades of hell. Towers collapsed into themselves, vehicles burned like funeral pyres, and the screams of men carried across the black sand. Captain Jason Hale dragged himself from the rubble, lungs raw with smoke, rifle gripped like an extension of his will. The alien stood in the crater still, unmoved, untouchable, its glowing eyes surveying the battlefield as if the slaughter were nothing more than a ritual. Around it, other figures emerged, for in total, each clad in armor darker than night, each carrying weapons that pulsed with living light. They spread out with the precision of wolves surrounding prey. Jason spat blood, steadying himself against a broken wall. He could see Diaz pinned under twisted steel, shouting for help. Without hesitation, Jason sprinted through the fire, ripping the beam away with every ounce of strength left in his body. Diaz gasped, coughing, his face streaked with ash. "You still with me?" Jason growled. Diaz nodded, though pain twisted his features. "Thought that was it. Cap thought we were dead." Jason hauled him up. "Not tonight." A blast of energy seared overhead, vaporizing a truck into molten slag. Jason yanked Diaz down as shrapnel showered them. His instincts screamed at him to fight, but years of war had taught him something more valuable: when to run. "Fall back," Jason bellowed, his voice carrying through the chaos. "Fall back to the secondary line." A handful of survivors heard him, scattered soldiers, bleeding but breathing. They rallied to his call, dragging wounded comrades, firing suppressive bursts at the advancing aliens. Their bullets sparked harmlessly against the armor, but it slowed the enemy just enough. Jason led them through the ruins, weaving between burning wrecks, diving into cover as the alien weapons tore craters in the earth. Each blast shook the ground, throwing men off their feet. Chapter 2: Fire in the Desert. The flames of Site-7 painted the desert in shades of hell. Towers collapsed into themselves, vehicles burned like funeral pyres, and the screams of men carried across the black sand. Captain Jason Hale dragged himself from the rubble, lungs raw with smoke, rifle gripped like an extension of his will. The alien stood in the crater still, unmoved, untouchable, its glowing eyes surveying the battlefield as if the slaughter were nothing more than a ritual. Around it, other figures emerged, for in total, each clad in armor darker than night, each carrying weapons that pulsed with living light. They spread out with the precision of wolves surrounding prey. Jason spat blood, steadying himself against a broken wall. He could see Diaz pinned under twisted steel, shouting for help. Without hesitation, Jason sprinted through the fire, ripping the beam away with every ounce of strength left in his body. Diaz gasped, coughing, his face streaked with ash. "You still with me?" Jason growled. Diaz nodded, though pain twisted his features. "Thought that was it. Cap thought we were dead." Jason hauled him up. "Not tonight." A blast of energy seared overhead, vaporizing a truck into molten slag. Jason yanked Diaz down as shrapnel showered them. His instincts screamed at him to fight, but years of war had taught him something more valuable: when to run. "Fall back," Jason bellowed, his voice carrying through the chaos. "Fall back to the secondary line." A handful of survivors heard him, scattered soldiers, bleeding but breathing. They rallied to his call, dragging wounded comrades, firing suppressive bursts at the advancing aliens. Their bullets sparked harmlessly against the armor, but it slowed the enemy just enough. Jason led them through the ruins, weaving between burning wrecks, diving into cover as the alien weapons tore craters in the earth. Each blast shook the ground, throwing men off their feet. Chapter 3: The Signal in the Dark. The emergency bunker shook with the hum of the alien transmission, a low vibration that sank into the marrow of every man and woman inside. The survivors of Site-7 huddled around the console, its cracked screen glowing with alien glyphs superimposed over human coordinates. Captain Jason Hale leaned closer, sweat gleaming on his scarred face. His eyes narrowed. The numbers weren't random. They pointed somewhere, far north, buried deep in the wilderness of Montana. Diaz exhaled, clutching his side. Montana? What the hell could be out there? Nothing but mountains and ghosts. Jason's jaw tightened. Then maybe ghosts are exactly what we need. The room was heavy with silence, the kind that comes after funerals. They had lost everything at Groom Lake. Friends, brothers, an entire base swallowed in fire. But here, in this forgotten bunker, something stirred. Not fear, not defeat, purpose. Jason turned to the group, his voice cutting through the dark. We move at dawn. If these coordinates are bait, we'll know. If they're hope, we'll find it. The convoy rolled out hours later. The survivors crammed into battered Humvees scavenged from the bunker's garage. The desert stretched wide around them, a graveyard painted in gray light. In the distance, Groom Lake still burned, smoke rising into the clouds like a scar. Jason sat shotgun, his rifle across his lap, eyes scanning the horizon. The world felt different now. Every shadow, every flicker in the sky carried weight. Humanity had always believed the frontier was theirs to conquer. Last night proved it belonged to something else. Diaz drove, hands tight on the wheel, his voice low. Cap, what if Command sends hunters after us? You know they'll try to bury this. If word gets out, aliens, massacres, Groom Lake destroyed, the whole country will burn. Jason's gaze didn't waver. Command can bury their secrets in the dirt. We don't answer to them anymore. We answer to survival. For a moment, Diaz said nothing. Then he nodded, grim and steady. Survival. Copy that. 2 days on the road brought them to the mountains, jagged peaks tearing the sky open. Snow dusted the ridges, rivers of ice cutting through the rock. Montana was wilderness at its rawest, the kind of place the world had forgotten. The coordinates led them into a valley so deep sunlight barely touched it. Pines clawed at the sky, and the wind carried a chill that cut through their fatigues. The convoy stopped near an old logging trail. Jason ordered silence, weapons drawn. They moved as shadows, boots crunching softly against the frozen ground. At the valley's heart, they found it. A structure buried beneath ice and stone. Not alien metal like the ship at Groom Lake, but something older, something that felt ancient. Its surface was fused with rock, glowing faintly, as if the mountain itself had grown around it. Rhea whispered, her breath misting in the cold. It's been here for centuries. Jason stepped closer, hand brushing the frozen surface. The hum from the bunker's signal grew stronger, resonating through the air, vibrating in his bones. Diaz muttered, Cap, you're telling me they've been here since before us? Jason didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth was carved into the ice. This wasn't the first time Earth had been visited. The ground shook suddenly, snow cascading from the cliffs. The structure pulsed with light, lines of energy crawling across its surface. The hum turned into a roar, a resonance so powerful it dropped them to their knees. And then it opened. A seam split down the middle, ice cracking, stone breaking. The entrance yawned wide, exhaling a breath of air that hadn't touched Earth in thousands of years. Jason rose, rifle ready. His voice was steady, commanding. Move in. Stay sharp. They entered the dark. The interior was a cathedral of alien design. Tunnels carved with impossible precision, walls etched with glyphs that glowed as they passed. The air was heavy, alive, filled with static that prickled against their skin. Kale, the hacker, ran his trembling fingers over the symbols. These aren't just markings. They're data. Whole histories written into stone. Translate, Jason asked. Cale shook his head, eyes wide. Not yet. But this place, it's not a weapon. It's the vault. Deeper they went, flashlights cutting through endless dark. The tunnels opened into a vast chamber, a dome so large it could have swallowed a stadium whole. At its center stood a pedestal, and on it, something human. A body, encased in crystal. The figure was male, dressed not in alien armor but in an American flight suit. The stars and stripes faded on his shoulder. His face was young, untouched by time, as though he had been frozen the moment he fell. The soldiers gasped. What the hell is this? Diaz whispered. Jason stepped closer, heart hammering. The man inside the crystal wasn't just anyone. He was a legend. His face was in history books, in every academy Jason had trained at. Colonel William Grant, a test pilot who vanished in 1953 during a classified mission out of Edwards Air Force Base. Declared dead. Never found. Yet here he was. Preserved. Waiting. Suddenly, the crystal cracked. The chamber roared with light. Energy surged through the walls, shaking the mountain. The body inside stirred, his eyes snapping open, glowing with the same fire as the alien glyphs. The soldiers stumbled back, weapons raised. Jason stood frozen, his chest tight, as the figure stepped free, shards of crystal falling away. Colonel Grant exhaled, his voice echoing with power not entirely human. They're back. The chamber shook harder. Far above, the sky thundered. The soldiers turned as light ripped through the cracks of the mountain. Alien ships. Descending. Jason leveled his rifle, fire burning in his veins. Then let's make sure they regret it. Chapter 4. Fire in the Valley. The mountain shuddered, a low rumble that shook loose torrents of snow from the cliffs. Jason Hale's squad burst from the alien vault, rifles high, eyes wide against the fire spilling across the night sky. Above them, the heavens burned. Dozens of alien ships tore through the clouds in perfect formation, their hulls glowing with molten lines, engines howling like banshees. The valley lit up as if the stars themselves had declared war. Contact. Multiple bogies inbound. Diaz screamed, his voice barely audible over the roar. Jason didn't flinch. His gaze swept the tree-line, the cliffs, the open kill zone they were trapped in. No bunkers, no cover, no reinforcements. Just a squad of survivors, a thought-out pilot from another century, and a storm of fire descending on them. Form up, Jason barked, his voice steel. Weapons free. Make every shot count. The first dropship split the clouds, its hull black as obsidian, bristling with alien cannons. Its thrusters roared, blasting snow and earth in violent gusts. The side of the craft peeled open, and shadows poured out. Alien infantry, tall and skeletal, their armor fused with pulsing red veins. Their weapons hissed with energy that made the air crackle. Engage! Jason shouted. The valley erupted. Muzzle flashes lit the night, the sharp bark of M4S and the thunder of saws hammering into the alien ranks. The first wave staggered as bullets tore through their armor, sparks cascading, but they didn't fall easy. They moved with inhuman speed, weaving through fire, their weapons spitting lances of plasma that burned through rock and steel alike. Diaz ripped a grenade free and hurled it. The explosion painted the snow crimson, alien bodies scattering in broken pieces. That's right, you ugly bastards, he roared, before ducking as plasma scorched the tree beside him into ash. Jason laid down controlled bursts, his rounds punching through a soldier's chest plate. He spun, cutting down another that leapt from the shadows. His heartbeat thundered, but his hands were steady. Every movement precise, every kill deliberate. Then the ground itself trembled. From the second dropship, something massive emerged, taller than a tank, armored in jagged plating, its skull-like head glowing with crimson light. It carried a weapon that pulsed like a living organ, and when it fired, the blast obliterated half a ridge in a scream of molten rock. The squad froze. "What the hell is that thing?" Rhea gasped, voice breaking. Jason's jaw locked. Target designation, Nightmare. He chambered another round. "Light it up." The squad unleashed everything. Bullets, grenades, rockets scavenged from the bunker's armory. The monster staggered under the barrage, pieces of armor cracking, black ichor spilling like tar. But it didn't fall. It roared, a sound like 1,000 voices shrieking at once, and charged. The earth quaked with every step. Jason braced, ready to order a retreat, when a voice cut through the chaos. "Down!" It was Colonel William Grant. The pilot from another century stepped forward, eyes glowing like the glyphs in the vault, hands raised as if gripping invisible levers. The alien behemoth fired its cannon, and the blast curved. Energy bent midair, spiraling into nothingness as if the laws of physics had been rewritten. The squad stared, jaws slack. Grant's eyes burned brighter, veins pulsing with alien fire. He clenched his fists. The monster staggered, its armor glowing, cracks splitting across its body as if invisible hands were crushing it from within. With a final scream, the alien juggernaut exploded, raining shards of armor across the snow. The squad was silent. The only sound was the hiss of smoking wreckage. Jason turned, chest heaving, staring at Grant. The man didn't look human anymore, at least not entirely. His breath fogged in the freezing air, and when he spoke, his voice carried that same echo from the vault. "They'll send more." Jason raised his rifle, his soldiers tense, unsure if the threat now stood in front of them. But deep down, he knew the truth. Grant wasn't the enemy. He was the weapon. Jason lowered the rifle. His voice was low, hard, and final. "Then we use you before they bury us all." Above them, more ships pierced the clouds. The battle for Montana had only begun. Chapter 5. Ghosts in the Rockies. Snow fell in sheets across the Montana wilderness, heavy and relentless, burying the valley in silence. The wreckage of alien dropships smoldered in the dark, their twisted frames glowing like dying embers scattered across the ice. Captain Jason Hale's squad moved fast, abandoning the battlefield before more ships descended. Their boots crunched through drifts as they pushed into the tree-line, breath fogging, weapons ready. Every shadow felt alive now. Every sound in the forest whispered danger. Grant walked with them, his flight suit torn, his face unreadable beneath the faint glow that still lingered in his eyes. The squad gave him distance, as if the man might explode at any moment. Diaz finally broke the silence. "Cap, we gonna talk about it? Or just pretend we didn't see him bend the laws of reality like a damn Jedi?" Jason's jaw tightened. "Not here. Not now." Diaz spat into the snow. "Fine, but I don't trust ghosts, especially ones that come back glowing." Grant stopped, turning to face them. His voice was calm, steady, but it carried a weight that silenced the forest. "I didn't ask for this. Whatever happened to me in that vault, it's not mine. But if you want to survive, you're going to need me." Jason studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "Then stay useful." By dawn, they had carved through 10 miles of wilderness, climbing deeper into the Rockies. The air thinned, cold biting into their lungs. Jason's squad moved like shadows, slipping across frozen rivers, vanishing into the forest with military precision. But the war wasn't just behind them. Overhead, alien patrol craft scoured the skies, sleek black hunters gliding silently, scanning the trees with beams of red light that sliced through the snow. The squad froze beneath the pines as one ship passed so low they could see the alien pilots inside, their faces hidden behind chitinous masks. When the ship drifted away, Diaz exhaled. "They're sweeping everything. We're not just running, we're prey." Jason didn't argue, because Diaz was right. At noon they reached an abandoned ranger station high on a ridge. Windows shattered, the roof caved. It looked like nothing but a ruin, but the basement still held fuel cans, a radio, and enough shelter to rest. Kale, the hacker, immediately dropped to the radio, fingers working with frantic speed. "If Command's still listening on black channels, I can piggyback a signal. Might even get a sat relay." Jason's eyes narrowed. "And if Command's the one trying to bury us?" Kale hesitated. "Then they'll bury us faster if they don't even know we're alive." Jason weighed it, then nodded. "Do it. Keep it short. Burst transmission only." Minutes later, the radio hissed, then cracked to life. A voice answered. Female, clipped, military. "Identify yourself." Jason grabbed the mic. "Captain Jason Hale, Site 7 survivors. Groom Lake compromised. We have intel. Alien structures buried in U.S. soil. Repeat, this invasion isn't first contact. They've been here." Static swallowed his words for a moment. Then the voice came back, harder. "Hale, your orders are to stand down. Do not proceed further. Do not transmit again. Extraction will not be authorized." Diaz swore. "They're hanging us out to dry." Jason's grip on the mic tightened until it cracked. "Negative. You extract us, or you'll lose the only soldiers still fighting this war." Silence. Then a final reply, ice cold. "Captain, you and your unit no longer exist." The line went dead. Kale paled. "They've burned us. We're ghosts." Jason lowered the mic slowly, the truth settling in his chest like stone. They weren't just fighting the aliens anymore. Command had written them off. And in the distance, the mountains echoed with a new sound, the howl of alien hounds, fast and many, closing in on their trail. Jason chambered around, his voice a low growl. Then ghosts fight harder. The squad tightened their grips, forming a circle as the forest trembled with the hunter's approach. Snow whipped through the trees, the air burning with the glow of alien eyes. The next battle had already begun. Chapter 6: Wolves in the Snow. The forest whispered with death. Jason Hale crouched low in the snow, his breath misting as he scanned the tree line through the scope of his rifle. The alien hounds were close now. He could hear their guttural snarls echoing between the pines, claws scraping frozen stone. The air itself seemed to vibrate with their hunger. Diaz muttered under his breath, "Feels like we're in the middle of a damn horror movie." Jason's voice was steady, razor sharp. "Eyes forward. They'll circle. They always circle." The squad formed a perimeter around the ruined ranger station, weapons raised, nerves tight as tripwire. Kale crouched by the broken door, laptop balanced on his knee, trying to jam alien frequencies with makeshift code. Rhea checked her grenades with trembling hands, lips moving in a silent prayer. And Grant, Colonel William Grant, stood apart from them, eyes glowing faintly in the dark, his hand pressed against the trunk of a tree. The bark seemed to hum beneath his touch, as if he were listening to something no one else could hear. Jason caught it, frowning. "You picking something up, Colonel?" Grant turned, voice low, distant. "They don't just hunt with eyes. They're linked. A hive mind. When one sees you, they all do." The words had barely left his mouth when the forest exploded. 3 alien hounds burst from the trees, hulking beasts of muscle and steel, their spines lined with glowing plates, jaws dripping molten saliva that hissed in the snow. They moved too fast for their size, shadows blurring as they charged the perimeter. "Contact front," Jason roared. Gunfire split the silence. Muzzle flashes lit the night, bullets tearing into the beasts, spraying sparks and ichor. One hound spun, crashing into a pine so hard the trunk snapped in half. Another leapt clear over the squad, slamming into Diaz and sending him sprawling in the snow. Diaz jammed his knife into its throat, roaring as the creature shrieked, its blood burning like acid. Jason pivoted, unloading rounds into its skull until the monster collapsed beside his sergeant in a twitching heap. But the third hound didn't fall. It plowed straight into Rhea, pinning her against the ranger station's wall. Its jaws opened wide, and then slammed shut on empty air. Grant had moved like lightning, seizing the beast's head with both hands. His eyes blazed, veins glowing, and the hound froze, body spasming as if its nervous system had been hijacked. With a guttural cry, Grant twisted, bones and metal snapping in a sickening crack. The beast collapsed, twitching lifelessly at his feet. The squad stared, breathless. Grant didn't look at them. He just wiped blood from his face and whispered, almost to himself, "They're still coming." Jason raised his rifle, scanning the tree-line. The colonel was right. Shadows moved deeper in the forest, more hounds. Dozens, maybe hundreds. But then Jason saw something else. A flicker of green lasers cutting through the trees. Shapes in night vision goggles. Human shapes. Diaz cursed. "You've got to be kidding me. Wolves at our front, hunters at our back." Black Ops. U.S. Command hadn't just burned them. They'd sent their own to finish the job. Jason's blood ran cold as he watched the men fan out in silence, their rifles suppressed, their formation perfect. They weren't here to help. They were here to erase. The squad huddled close, snow falling heavier now. The ranger station little more than splinters behind them. Two enemies. No escape. Jason's voice was a steel whisper. "All right, listen up. Aliens want us dead. Command wants us dead. So we fight both." Hard and loud. Diaz grinned, blood dripping from a cut across his face. "About damn time, Cap." I was getting bored. The alien howls grew louder. The green lasers closed in. Jason chambered a fresh round, heart steady, breath calm. "Let's show them what ghosts can do." And then the valley erupted. Gunfire from two sides. Alien hounds crashing into human Black Ops. Soldiers screaming as plasma ripped through trees. The forest became a blender of fire and blood, and Jason's squad dove straight into the chaos. Chapter 7. The Burning Trail. The forest was on fire. Tracer rounds carved neon scars through the snowstorm. Plasma bolts seared trees into ash, and the alien hounds tore through men like wolves through cattle. Jason Hale ducked behind a fallen pine, bullets snapping overhead, the world lit by muzzle flashes and alien fire. Diaz slid in beside him, saw clattering empty. "Cap, we're boxed in. Hounds on one side, Black Ops on the other, and no way out." Jason's face was ice. There's always a way out. He slammed a fresh mag into his rifle, leaned out, and put 2 rounds through the visor of a Black Ops soldier trying to flank. The man dropped silently into the snow. Further down the ridge, Rhea screamed as an alien hound lunged for her throat. Then it froze mid-air, legs thrashing. Colonel Grant stood 10 yards away, his hands outstretched, his eyes burning brighter than the flames around them. The beast convulsed, crushed by an unseen force, before bursting in a spray of ichor that hissed against the snow. Jason's stomach twisted. Every time Grant used his powers, he looked less human. The glow spread across his veins like cracks in porcelain. His breath came ragged, his movements jerky, like something was fighting for control inside him. Kale's voice cut through the chaos. Cap. Thermal's picking something up. North Ridge. There's a break in the line. A chute down the mountain. Jason snapped orders instantly. Diaz, Rhea, Kale, push north. Suppressive fire. Grant, cover the rear. They sprinted through the smoke, weaving between burning trees as gunfire chased them. Black Ops soldiers shouted orders behind, their night vision lasers slicing through the blizzard. Aliens shrieked in the dark, hunting them all indiscriminately. The squad reached the ridge and stared down. It wasn't a trail. It was a chute of ice and rock plunging hundreds of feet into shadow. Diaz cursed. That's not an exit, Cap. That's a suicide note. Jason looked back at the inferno closing in. Better a suicide note than a body bag. Move. He shoved Diaz first. The sergeant skidded down, tumbling, arms flailing, before vanishing into the dark. Rhea followed with a scream, then Kale. Jason braced, fired a burst at the pursuing shadows, and threw himself down the slope. The world blurred into snow and pain. Ice tore at his skin, rocks slammed into his ribs, until he hit bottom with a bone-jarring thud. He gasped, forcing himself up, ribs aching but unbroken. Above, alien shrieks echoed closer. Black Ops rifles cracked, and then Grant appeared at the top of the ridge. He didn't slide. He leapt. For a heartbeat, he seemed to hover in the storm, glowing like a burning angel, before slamming into the ground with a shockwave that split the ice around them. His eyes blazed white, his chest heaved, and Jason realized with sudden clarity, Grant wasn't just using the alien power. The alien power was using him. Diaz scrambled to his feet, shouting over the storm. Cap, we gotta move. They'll follow. Jason pulled his squad into formation, forcing his eyes off the colonel. Then we don't give them the chance. They pushed deeper into the wilderness, snow swallowing their trail. But Jason couldn't shake the image of Grant in the storm, glowing, inhuman, and far too powerful to control. And somewhere in the darkness above, the hunters regrouped, both alien and human. The war was just beginning. Chapter 8. The Cold Silence. The storm swallowed the world as Jason led his squad deeper into the Rockies. The fire on the ridge was long behind them, but the screams, alien and human alike, still echoed in their ears. Every breath came out as a frozen ghost. Diaz stumbled, clutching his ribs. Cap, we can't keep this up. We're running blind. Jason raised his night vision goggles, scanning the darkness. Snow fell in sheets, muffling everything. Then his eyes caught it, a jagged mouth of concrete, half buried in snow and ice. Rusted steel doors hung open like broken teeth. An old missile silo. Jason motioned them forward. Shelter. Move. The squad slipped inside, boots crunching on debris. Their flashlights cut through the dark, revealing peeling paint, collapsed scaffolding, and frost crusting over steel walls. The air smelled of rust and rot. Rhea's voice trembled. This place, it's been sealed for decades. Not sealed enough. Kale muttered, pointing at the floor. Tracks in the dust. Not human. Jason raised his rifle. Weapons hot. Stay sharp. They moved down a spiral staircase, descending deeper into the earth. The silo's belly opened before them. An enormous chamber where a missile once stood, now an empty coffin of steel and shadows. But they weren't alone. Diaz froze, whispering, Cap, you hearing that? A clicking sound echoed through the chamber. Not mechanical, organic. Then the shadows moved. A creature peeled itself from the wall, thin, spindly, armored in chitin that shimmered faintly green under their lights. Its head cocked at an unnatural angle, eyes glowing like coals. Rhea hissed, Hunter class. The kind that doesn't let prey leave. Jason's finger tightened on his trigger. Contact. Drop it. Gunfire erupted, echoing like thunder in the silo. Bullets shredded the creature, but more clicks answered from the dark. A dozen red eyes blinked awake, circling the chamber like predators in a pit. Kale's voice shook. Cap, this wasn't just a missile base. It's a nest. Jason's blood went cold. Then burn it. The squad unleashed hell. Muzzle flashes lit the cavern. Grenades thumped into the dark. Flames roared as alien ichor sprayed across steel walls. The hunters swarmed, climbing along the ceilings, leaping from shadows, their claws shrieking sparks against rifles. One lunged at Diaz. Grant caught it midair, ripping it apart with invisible force. The colonel's glow lit the chamber, his face twisted, veins blazing white. The aliens screeched, recoiling like animals before fire. For a moment, Jason thought they might win. Then the silo shook. Something deeper inside the complex stirred, something larger. A sound like tearing metal and thunder rolled through the ground. The hunters scattered, vanishing into tunnels, fleeing from whatever had awakened. The silence that followed was worse than the fight. Rhea's whisper cracked in the dark. Cap, if they're running, what the hell are they running from? Jason swallowed hard, his rifle shaking in his grip. The air was colder now, charged with something that felt alive. Grant's eyes glowed in the dark, his voice low. Alien. It's not a nest. Jason turned toward him. Then what is it? Grant's mouth curled into something between a grin and a grimace. A prison. And somewhere in the abyss below, the prisoner was waking up. Chapter 9. The Prisoner. The silo groaned like a dying beast as the squad regrouped at the chamber's edge. Their breath came in ragged clouds, gun barrels glowing red from overuse. Spent shells littered the floor, and the walls dripped with alien ichor that hissed when it hit steel. But no one spoke, because the sound from below was still rising. It wasn't footsteps. It wasn't machinery. It was a pulse, a deep, resonant thrum that rattled bones and shook teeth. The silo itself seemed to beat in time with it, like a heart too large for the earth. Diaz wiped blood from his cheek, his voice raw. Cap, whatever's down there, if the hunters ran from it, we shouldn't be here. Jason's jaw was tight, his finger tense against his trigger. We don't get to choose anymore. Whatever that thing is, it's waking up, and it's not going to stop just because we turn our backs. Kale was kneeling near the wall, his hands pressed against the glowing glyphs carved into steel. They weren't just random etchings. Lines of energy flowed through them like veins. His eyes widened. This place, it wasn't built by humans. The Air Force didn't make this silo. They built over it. Rhea stiffened. You're saying this prison was here before us? Kale nodded, pale as ash. And the Cold War generals thought they could contain it. They were wrong. Before anyone could respond, the chamber split open. The floor tore apart with a screech of metal and stone. Dust and fire geysered into the air as something massive clawed upward. The squad staggered back, weapons raised, lights cutting across the dark. And then they saw it. The prisoner. It was colossal, twice the height of a man, its body armored in black plates that shimmered like obsidian, carved with the same glyphs that lined the walls. Its face was a horror mask of bone and fire, 6 eyes burning crimson. Shackles of alien metal clung to its arms and chest, broken and sparking as if they'd held for centuries and finally failed. The creature inhaled, a sound like 1,000 voices screaming underwater. Frost exploded from its breath. Rio whispered, "Oh my God." The prisoner's head snapped toward them. Jason roared, "Open fire." The squad unleashed everything. Rifles, grenades, flamethrowers stolen from Groom Lake. The chamber shook under the barrage, sparks and fire lighting the dark. Bullets shredded its armor. Explosions tore chunks of stone from its body, yet it kept moving forward. Then it raised its hand. A wave of energy ripped through the chamber, invisible but unstoppable. The squad was hurled like rag dolls, weapons torn from their grips. Metal bent and screamed. Lights shattered. The world went black, save for the red glow of the prisoner's eyes. Jason forced himself up, ears ringing, blood dripping down his temple. He looked across the chaos and saw Grant. Colonel William Grant stood rigid, his body glowing brighter, white fire burning through his veins. The prisoner's eyes fixed on him. Recognition. Grant staggered forward, his voice not entirely his own. "You should have stayed buried." The prisoner's reply was a guttural growl, yet the meaning bled into every human mind in the chamber. "This world is already mine." And with a single step, the ground quaked. The silo groaned. Above, snow and ice rained from the mountainside. The entire valley trembled, as if Montana itself was about to crack open. Jason dragged himself to his feet, chest heaving. He raised his rifle again, though he knew bullets wouldn't be enough. Not this time. "Everyone up," he bellowed. "We hold the line, or this thing gets out." The squad stumbled back into formation, bruised, broken, bleeding, but not done. Their lights cut through the dark again, aiming straight at the monster's heart. The battle for the prison had begun. Chapter 10: When Giants Walk. The silo could not hold him. The prisoner tore upward through steel and stone, every movement a thunderclap that split the mountain open. Alarms long dead wailed as concrete shattered, rusted catwalks twisted, and fire from ruptured fuel lines painted the chamber in orange helllight. Jason hauled Rhea to her feet, smoke burning his throat. "We're not dying in a hole. Move." The squad scrambled up the collapsing staircase, their boots slipping on ice and ash. Kale dragged Diaz, who groaned with every step, blood soaking through his fatigues. Behind them, the monster climbed, each hand the size of a man, claws raking through the silo walls. Grant stayed behind, his body blazing white, standing on a collapsing platform like a sentinel. His voice echoed with both human command and alien resonance. "Go? I'll hold him." Jason's gut twisted. "That's suicide." Grant's eyes burned brighter. "Then it's a good death." The ceiling split apart. The night swallowed them. The squad erupted into the storm above, snow whipping their faces, air so cold it stabbed their lungs. They spilled into the valley, Humvees half buried in frost, headlights dead. The sky was a smear of lightning and falling ice. And then the mountain screamed. The prisoner tore his way free, bursting from the silo like a titan ripping from the earth. His body glowed with crimson fire, every plate of his black armor pulsing with alien energy. Chains hung broken from his limbs, still sparking as they dragged across stone. For the first time, Jason felt small, so small he almost forgot to breathe. Diaz spat blood, raising his rifle. "What the hell are we supposed to do against that?" Jason chambered around, voice hard as steel. "The same thing we always do. Fight." The squad fanned out, weapons blazing. Rockets streaked through the snow, slamming into the monster's chest. Flames roared, snow boiled away, shock waves flattened trees. The prisoner staggered but did not fall. He answered with a wave of his hand. Energy arcs lashed the valley, bending Humvees like paper, ripping trees from their roots. The ground heaved, sending men sprawling. Kale screamed, clutching his head. "He's in my mind. He's inside my head." Jason dragged him up. "Block it out. Focus on me, soldier." The prisoner's roar shook the mountains, echoing for miles. He wasn't just fighting them. He was announcing himself to the world. Grant emerged from the ruined silo, his body blazing like a star. He leapt, higher than humanly possible, slamming into the prisoner's chest with a shockwave that cracked the valley floor. Light met darkness in a storm of power, sparks and fire raining across the snow. The two titans clashed, their blows rattling the mountains, their voices tearing through the squad's minds. Jason's radio crackled to life for the first time in days, static in a panicked voice. Unidentified combat signature detected over Montana airspace. NORAD confirms seismic readings off the charts. Units inbound. Repeat, units inbound. Jason froze, realization cutting like ice. If NORAD was watching, the U.S. military wasn't far behind. And if they saw this thing, if they realized aliens were real, they wouldn't try to capture it. They'd nuke the valley clean. Jason barked into his mic. This is Captain Jason Hale. Site 7 survivors. Do not send airstrikes. Repeat, stand down. You'll kill us all. Only Static answered. Rhea glanced at him, face pale. They're not going to listen, are they? Jason's eyes were locked on the battle between Grant and the prisoner. The snow was burning, the sky tearing open with every strike. No, Jason said. His voice was grim, final. They're going to carpet bomb Montana. And the squad's only hope was to finish this monster before the U.S. military erased them from the map. Chapter 11. Fire from the Sky. The valley shook as if the earth itself was dying. Lightning flared across the storm, casting monstrous shadows of Grant and the prisoner locked in combat. Every blow was an earthquake, every war a hurricane. Jason's radio screamed with static before a cold, clipped voice cut through. This is NORAD command. Unidentified hostile confirmed. Airstrike authorized. Bombing run commencing in T-4 minutes. Jason's gut turned to stone. God damn it, they're gonna kill us all. Diaz spat blood, clutching his ribs. Cap, they're not here to kill the thing. They're here to bury the whole valley. Jason scanned the battlefield. Grant slammed the prisoner into the mountainside, stone collapsing like sand. The monster retaliated with a wave of crimson energy, hurling Grant across the valley floor. The squad crouched behind a half-buried Humvee, snow boiling around them. Rhea's hands trembled as she reloaded. We can't outrun a bombing run. We won't make it 2 miles before they drop. Jason's mind raced. Running meant death. Fighting meant death. But there was another option, suicide wrapped in steel. He looked at Kale. That radio. Can you hack their comms? Get us a direct line to the pilots. Kale's hands shook, frostbite cracking his fingers. Maybe. But even if I break encryption, they won't listen. Orders are orders. Jason's voice hardened. Then we make them listen. Above, thunder deepened into a low, mechanical roar. The squad looked up. Stealth bombers. Black silhouettes cutting through the clouds, their bellies glowing as bomb bays opened. Diaz whispered a prayer. Jesus, they're really gonna do it. Jason snapped his rifle up, firing tracer rounds into the sky, not at the planes, but at the monster. Focus fire on the prisoner. Make them see. Make them know we're down here fighting it. The squad obeyed. Bullets ripped through the storm. Grenades exploded, tracer fire painting the snow red and gold. The prisoner roared, staggering as the humans peppered him with every ounce of firepower they had left. Kale screamed into the hacked radio. This is Captain Hale's unit. We have boots on the ground. Repeat, friendlies in the kill zone. Hold your fire. For a moment, silence. Then a pilot's voice crackled back, strained, uncertain. Ground team confirmed? Orders say this valley's gone. No survivors. Asterisk, asterisk. Jason grabbed the mic, his voice raw. You're looking at survivors right now, pilot. You drop those bombs, you bury Americans alive. We are engaging the hostile. Repeat, we have it contained. Give us time. The radio hissed with static. The bombers flew lower, their engines howling. Then, another voice cut through. Calm. Cold. Command. Negative. Hostile threat level. Extinction. Fire mission authorized. 1 minute to drop. Jason's stomach dropped. They weren't going to stop. He turned to the squad, eyes burning. Then we kill this bastard before the bombs fall. Everyone on me. The prisoner loomed above them, his armor glowing like a furnace, his crimson eyes burning through the snowstorm. He raised his hand again, the ground splitting beneath their feet. But Jason didn't back down. He sprinted forward, rifle blazing, grenades primed, fury and survival burning through his veins. Above, the bombers descended into attack range, their payloads armed. The sky was about to fall. Chapter 12, Firestorm. The first sirens of the bombers split the storm. Low, mechanical wails that grew louder, closer. Death had a sound. Jason sprinted across the snow, lungs burning, every muscle screaming. Behind him, the squad poured fire into the prisoner, rifles spitting sparks, grenades bursting like thunder. But the monster only grew stronger. The crimson glow in its chest spread outward, plates of alien armor cracking and reshaping like molten steel. Each step it took shook the valley. Its voice rumbled in their skulls, a language of nightmares. This world kneels. Grant slammed into him from the side. Their collision an explosion of white and red light. The mountains shuddered, avalanches tumbling down jagged cliffs. For a moment, Titan battled Titan, fists like meteors, roars like gods at war. Above them, the bombers released. 6 sleek shapes dropped from the sky, their payloads glinting like falling suns. Jason shouted into the mic, "Everyone down." The first impact hit a mile away. The earth heaved, snow vaporized, fire clawed at the sky. A second detonated closer, heat scorching their faces even from hundreds of yards out. Shockwaves flung the squad like toys. Diaz crashed into the snow, coughing blood. They're dropping everything they've got. Jason pulled him up, half dragging him. We move or we're ash. The prisoner wasn't running. He absorbed the blasts. Bombs slammed into the valley, detonating in blossoms of fire and steel. The monster stood in the heart of the inferno, his armor glowing brighter, drinking in the energy like a starving god. Rhea froze, horror etched across her face. He's feeding on it. Jason's heart clenched. The U.S. wasn't killing the alien, they were charging it. Kale. Jason roared over the chaos. Kill that comlink now? They'll bomb us into extinction. Kale fumbled with his pack, sparks flying from the radio. I'm trying. Their command uplinks locked. Before he could finish, a bomb tore into the silo ruins. The explosion was blinding. Steel and fire ripped through the valley. Jason threw himself over Kale, his armor searing, the heat unbearable. When the dust cleared, half their cover was gone. The valley looked like hell itself had clawed its way to the surface. And in the middle of it, the prisoner rose, taller, stronger, his chains finally disintegrating into ash. His eyes burned like suns, his voice a chorus of doom. You cannot bury me. You only wake me. Grant staggered out of the flames, his own body dimming, his glow faltering. Jason saw him drop to one knee, exhausted, blood running from his mouth. The Titan who'd held the line was breaking. Jason's chest tightened. The bombs weren't going to save them. They were out of time, out of weapons, out of hope. And yet, something inside him refused to bow. He gripped his rifle tighter, dragging himself to his feet, standing against the firestorm. His voice tore from his throat, raw and unyielding. Then we don't bury you. He chambered his last round, eyes locked on the monster. We break you. The squad pulled themselves together, bloodied, burned, broken, but still alive. They fell in at Jason's side, their weapons rising for one last stand. Above them, more bombs screamed downward, fire carving through the storm. Ahead of them, the prisoner took a step, the ground breaking under his weight. Hell had come to Montana, and Jason Hale was going to meet it head-on. Chapter 13, The Last Line. The air burned. Snow no longer fell. It vaporized before touching the ground. The valley was fire, ash, and thunder. Jason staggered forward through the storm of flame, his boots sinking into earth that glowed like coal. His ears rang from endless detonations, but he could still hear it, the monster's voice reverberating through his skull. You fight as ants fight. You burn as ants burn. The prisoner loomed above the inferno, his black armor gleaming molten red, every bomb that struck him feeding his strength. Chains once binding him had turned to glowing scars across his body. His crimson eyes scoured the battlefield like searchlights. Grant faced him again, his glow sputtering but alive, one man standing against a god. He hurled himself forward, fists blazing white, colliding with the monster's chest. The valley cracked with the impact, shockwaves tearing through fire and ice alike. Jason knew Grant couldn't hold out much longer. If the colonel fell, the world followed. The squad regrouped in the ruins of a Humvee half melted by heat. Diaz's face was pale, blood soaking his fatigues. Rhea reloaded her last magazine with trembling hands. Kale's equipment sparked, the radio dead, their link to command severed. Jason crouched low, his voice raw but steady. Listen to me. We end this here. We don't wait for backup. We don't wait for another miracle. It's us or nothing. Diaz coughed, spitting red into the snow. Cap, even if we dump everything we've got, it won't scratch him. Jason's eyes flicked to Grant, still holding the monster at bay with sheer fury. We don't need to kill it outright. We just need to cripple it long enough for Grant to finish the job. Rhea shook her head. Cap, that's suicide. Jason loaded his last grenade, jaw tight. Then let's make it a beautiful one. They charged. Gunfire split the storm. Explosions rattled the mountains. The squad hit the prisoner from every angle, grenades detonating against his legs, tracer fire ripping into cracks of his armor. The monster roared, swatting at them like insects. But Jason's team was fast, darting between flame and rubble. Every shot wasn't meant to kill, but to weaken, to drag the Titan's focus away from Grant. Jason slid across the burning snow, raising his launcher. He fired point-blank at the monster's knee, detonation tearing alien plating free. The prisoner dropped for the first time, one leg crashing into the earth. Grant didn't hesitate. He slammed down on the exposed wound, driving his glowing fists deep into the crack, white light bursting through. The prisoner shrieked, the sound splitting stone and soul alike. But victory was an illusion. Above, the next wave of bombers screamed closer. Their shadows cut through fire and smoke. Payload doors opened. Jason's radio sparked back to life, just long enough for a single, merciless transmission. Final strike incoming. 20 seconds. Jason's breath caught. 20 seconds until the valley was glass. He roared to his squad. All charges. On the monster. Now. They obeyed without hesitation. Kale rigged C4 packs, tossing them to Rhea. Diaz ripped the last satchel charges from his vest, his hands shaking but sure. Together they strapped the explosives to the cracks Jason had opened in the prisoner's armor. The monster swung wildly, swatting men aside, roaring like an apocalypse given flesh. But the squad clung to him like hornets, planting death in every wound. Jason was the last. He strapped the final charge to the monster's chest, right above its blazing core. The prisoner's crimson eyes locked on him. "Ain't you dare?" Jason gritted his teeth, staring up at a god. "Yeah, I dare." He slammed the detonator. The world turned white. Explosions ripped through the monster's body, tearing plates of armor apart, spraying molten ichor across the valley. The prisoner screamed as light and fire consumed him, his form collapsing into the snow. At that same instant, the bombs fell. The valley erupted. Fire swallowed everything. The sky split. The earth cracked. Mountains trembled as steel and flame hammered the battlefield flat. Jason was thrown into the inferno, ears deafened, body burning. He thought, for one fleeting second, that this was it. This was the end. Then, through the storm, he saw it. Grant, standing in the fire, his glow brighter than the bombs, his fists clenched around the prisoner's writhing form. White light flared, swallowing red, as the colonel roared with a voice both human and alien. "You don't get this world." And with a final, blinding flash, both titans vanished into the fire. When Jason opened his eyes, the valley was a crater. Fire still burned across the horizon. Snow fell again, blackened with ash. Around him, his squad coughed, bloodied but alive. Diaz was missing half his vest. Ria's arm hung useless. Kale's face was scorched, but they were breathing. Jason pushed himself to his knees, his body screaming in pain. He looked at the smoking pit where Grant and the prisoner had stood. Nothing remained. The radio crackled weakly. Command's voice returned, cold and clinical. "Impact confirmed. Valley neutralized. No survivors expected. Mission accomplished." Jason stared at the ashes, his throat raw, his hands trembling. Mission accomplished. And yet he knew this wasn't over. Because no body meant no proof. And no proof meant the world was still blind. Jason tightened his grip on his rifle. His voice was hoarse, but unbroken. "They'll come again." The squad looked at him, exhausted but resolute. And together, they rose from the ashes. Chapter 14. Ashes of Montana. The valley was gone. Where once there had been pine, snow, and stone, now there was only a burning crater. Smoke clawed at the sky like the hands of the dead. Jason stumbled across blackened earth, boots crunching over glassed rock. His squad limped with him, Ria clutching her shattered arm, Kale dragging Diaz by the vest. Every breath tasted of ash. The silence was the worst of it. No bombs. No gunfire. No monster's roar. Only the faint whisper of the wind across ruin. Jason raised the battered radio again, voice cracked. "Command, this is Strike Team Omega. We are alive. Do you copy?" Static. Then a cold reply. "Negative. All units in the blast zone are presumed Kia. Extraction not authorized." Over. Jason's jaw tightened. They weren't just abandoned. They'd been erased. "They're writing us off," he muttered. Diaz spat blood into the ash. "Wouldn't be the first time, Cap." Kale slammed the useless radio into the dirt. "So what now?" "Walk home." Jason turned his eyes eastward, beyond the ruined valley, toward the distant glow of civilization. "We get out of here, and then we tell the world what really happened." The hike through the mountains was agony. Burnt forests stretched for miles, wildlife gone silent. Night fell, bringing bitter winds. The squad wrapped themselves in what scraps they had left, every step driven by stubborn will. At dawn, they reached the edge of the blast zone. And that was when they saw it. Not ruins. Not silence. A convoy. Military trucks rolled across a ridge, accompanied by armored drones. Men in black tactical armor marched in precision, their insignias not of the U.S. Army, but something different. On their vehicles gleamed a symbol Jason had never seen before, a silver circle broken by a single jagged line. Rhea whispered. That's not our unit. Jason's gut twisted. Whoever these people were, they had been waiting. The squad ducked into cover as the convoy halted. A figure stepped from the lead vehicle, a tall man in a black coat, face hidden by a visor mask. He surveyed the destruction with calm precision, as if he had been expecting it. Jason could feel it in his bones. This wasn't rescue. This was cleanup. The masked man spoke into his comm Jason strained to hear. Confirm containment. Subject Alpha neutralized. Prepare recovery of foreign material. Burn the rest. Jason's blood ran cold. They weren't hunting survivors. They were burying evidence. The squad slipped away before they were spotted, hearts pounding. Hours later, exhausted, they finally reached a small Montana town on the edge of the mountains. But peace was an illusion. The town square was crowded. Townsfolk gathered in fear as giant screens lit up with breaking news. A federal broadcast declared the Montana blast site a nuclear accident caused by a catastrophic warhead malfunction during a routine training exercise. The people muttered in disbelief. Some wept. Some screamed. Jason's fists clenched. A lie broadcast to millions, erasing everything they had bled for. Rhea hissed under her breath. They're covering it all up. The monster. Grant. Everything. Jason's eyes scanned the crowd. Soldiers in plain clothes watched from the edges, ensuring no one asked too many questions. The squad stood at the fringe, ghosts in their own homeland. Jason finally spoke, low and steady. They don't want the world to know what's coming. Diaz rasped. Then it's on us to tell them. Kale gave a humorless laugh. We're 4 broken soldiers against the entire government. Against whatever that thing was. What the hell can we do? Jason's gaze hardened, voice steel through the ash. We do what we always do. We fight. That night, under the shadow of burned mountains, Jason sat alone, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, maybe Grant still lived, or maybe only the prisoner remained. Either way, the war had already begun, and Jason would not let the world sleep through its own extinction. Final chapter, The Last Light. The storm rolled across the Montana plains like the breath of gods. Lightning tore the sky open, illuminating the charred wasteland that once had been a valley. Jason Hale stood at the ridge, his squad battered and bloodied beside him. Behind them, the town lay dark, evacuated under the government's lies. Ahead, the Shadow faction had assembled, armored trucks, drones, and soldiers in black exosuits, their visors gleaming in the stormlight. And above it all, alien ships descended once more, silent, watching. The world was holding its breath. The masked commander of the Shadow faction stepped forward, his voice carrying through the storm. Captain Hale, surrender. The war is bigger than you, bigger than all of us. We'll contain it, our way. Jason raised his rifle, rain streaming down his face. Containment? You're not saving humanity. You're chaining it, feeding it to them. The commander's visor tilted. And what's your plan, soldier? A handful of ghosts, fighting an enemy you can't understand. Jason's answer was steel. We fight, and when we fall, others will rise. The commander's hand lifted, signal to fire. Gunfire erupted. The night became chaos. Black-armored troops surged forward, drones shrieked overhead. Jason's squad fought like wolves, every shot fueled by rage and survival. Diaz tore through the flank with a grenade. Kale hacked a drone mid-air to turn it on its masters. Rhea fired one-handed despite her broken arm, each shot true. But the enemy was endless. Then the sky split. From the storm, a column of white fire descended, alien, divine, impossible. At its heart, a figure emerged. Colonel Grant, or what he had become. His body burned with alien energy, eyes glowing like twin suns. His voice boomed, both human and not. They are coming. Earth is already theirs. Unless you rise. The shadow troops faltered, caught between orders and terror. The alien ships roared above, their hulls trembling with the same energy that pulsed through Grant. Jason stepped forward, lightning flashing against his scarred face. "Grant, help us. Fight with us." Grant's gaze met his. For a heartbeat, there was recognition. A soldier. A brother. Then his form fractured, energy ripping free. He was no longer man or prisoner. He was something in between. A weapon or a warning. The battlefield became fire. Alien ships unleashed beams of destruction. Shadow troops screamed as their own technology turned against them. Jason's squad fought through the inferno, every breath of victory, every heartbeat borrowed time. And then Jason saw it. The core of the alien ship above, exposed for just a moment. Their chance. He grabbed Diaz by the shoulder. "We take it down. Now." Diaz's eyes burned. "That'll kill us all." Jason gave the faintest smile. "Then let's make it count." The final charge was a blur. Jason's squad carved through soldiers and machines, reaching the ridge as the ship descended. Kale overloaded the hacked drone, strapping his last explosive charge to it. Rhea covered them until her rifle clicked dry, then she drew her sidearm, screaming defiance into the storm. Jason and Diaz launched the drone skyward. It streaked into the alien ship's core and detonated. The sky cracked open. Fire, light, and silence swallowed the world. When the smoke cleared, Montana was gone. The alien ship lay broken, its wreckage smoldering across the plains. Shadow troops had scattered, and only a handful of Jason's squad still drew breath. Jason lay on the ground, chest heaving, vision fading. He felt Rhea's hand on his, faint but steady. Above them, through the smoke and lightning, alien ships still hung in the sky. Dozens, hundreds, watching. Grant's voice whispered across the storm, not in sound but in thought, echoing inside Jason's skull. This was only the first wave. The frontier is broken. The war has begun. Jason closed his eyes, the storm swallowing him, the weight of Earth's future pressing into his bones. And still, his last thought was not surrender. It was fire. It was fight. Epilogue. Weeks later, fragments of the Montana battle leaked online. Grainy footage of alien ships, soldiers in black armor, and a burning sky. The government denied it all, called it fakes, but the world had seen enough. And across the globe, whispers spread. Survivors formed networks. Soldiers went rogue. Scientists dug into buried files. Humanity stirred from its slumber. Jason's name was not spoken, nor Rhea's, nor Diaz's. They were ghosts, erased from history. But in the shadows, their fight lived on. Because wars don't end in fire. They begin in it. And the shadow frontier had only just opened.